Welcome to the RayStation version 2025 release training on IT-related changes. The agenda for today will first cover security. Then we will talk about Storage Tool, which is opened up for new user groups, and we will look at the open case dialog and which settings we have there. Next, we will talk about system upgrades and new small features. Lastly, we will discuss important bug fixes. So let's get started. Here you see a slide with the initial plan for version 2025, which we have stayed to and fulfilled. Feel free to pause the video to read through. We will cover these topics during this presentation. Let us start with security. We have built automatic support for security. Let us look at the prerequisites. We do use the transparent data encryption TDE in the SQL server. Thus, if SQL Server 2016 or 2017 is used, it should be upgraded. Before installation, one should verify that the clinic has a certificate that can be used for server authentication. Next, we have the setup of the RayStation groups, where we now also require this RayStation users group as well. We recommend a common AD group for all RayStation users, which will make it easier to set up access level on the databases and so on. What is new is that you need this SQL Server master key and a SQL Server certificate, which we will have a further look at in the next slide. We will use SQL Server Management Studio to create them, and this is documented in the SEG and in the PDTR. Let's have a look in SQL Server Management Studio. A master key is created by the command highlighted in this screenshot, where you have to select a password. You can only have one master key. Then, we need to back up the master key. If you lose it, you cannot restore the databases. Thus, it is very important to make sure the master key and the certificate used to encrypt the databases are stored safely. Here, we see the steps summarized. After setting both the master key and the backup service master key, we need to create a certificate. By using Select Star from Sys certificates, you can list the certificates already present. Then we proceed to create certificate, and before this can be used, we want to back it up by running backup certificate. Here, another password is introduced. Lastly, we can show which certificates are being used for the encrypted databases. This is also included in the SEG. This can be done before installation of version 2025. Now, we want to start setting up Secure System. Now we have these supplementary databases in addition to the normal model databases, which is PatientDB, MachineDB, ClinicDB, Machine Learning DB, and the SystemDB, added in version 24b. The supplementary databases are called ResourceDB, LicenseDB, IndexDB, and ServiceDB. So 9 databases is the minimum you will get when you set up RayStation version 2025. Regarding AD groups, it is now mandatory to define one or more AD groups with access rights, both to read and write, to the RayStation databases. The recommendation is to use a specific RayStation users group. Now, we have a wizard, which opens when you start Storage Tool. It will detect if any of the databases are missing. This is also where you add AD groups and encrypt using TDE. For existing databases, you can define AD groups and enable data encryption in version 2025, which you see in these images. When creating a new secure system, in the AD groups column, you can enter more groups by adding a comma between each group name. If you add a group name that does not exist, you will be prompted with a warning, and you need to edit the AD group name before you can proceed. The data encryption checkbox is TDE. We enable TDE for the selected database, if necessary. In the server certificate column, you can look up from the SQL server and find the available certificates. When the system is ready, we can go in to the HIPAA screen. Now, this is called Security Controls, and the button for details is always enabled. When pressing this, you will arrive at the screen seen in this image. In the table, you will see the connection encryption. That was the connection string. Then, under data encryption, we have TDE 256, and we have SQL auditing turned on. This auditing will also detect changes. If you, for example, by accident or on purpose, disable the audit specification in SQL Management Studio, it will show as status incorrect in this table. This means that it does exist, but is incorrectly configured. If you do a full upgrade for an old version of RayStation to version 2025 or newer, we have the option to enable TDE and SQL audit logging for existing databases. After registration of the system, you can point to the databases and go to the Database Details screen. There you can encrypt data using Enable Data Encryption. Enable Data Encryption will encrypt the entire database using TDE, but not file stream data. Though if you have existing file stream data in an existing database, this will not be encrypted. But all new data added to that database will be encrypted if you have this turned on. You can also press Add Server Audit Log to enable audit logging. Next, we will have a look at the Service Installer. We now default to a domain service account, a specified user. We have accepted roles, where you define which user groups that can talk to the service. This is mandatory to have the services locked down to a specific user group. You can write disabled in accepted roles, and then you will disable all server authentication to get the old behavior. This is not recommended. Lastly, we default to tick the checkbox for secure hosting, then you have to have a certificate added to the certificate hash. That was all on the security topic. Now, we will proceed to talk about opening up storage for new user groups for non-SQL admins. Storage can now be opened up to other users, and we do that in the settings screen by selecting an AD group. Clinics can define an AD group with access to a limited set of storage functions. Members of the group will have access to the functions listed here. Patient transfer functions, including command line, patient copy function, configuration of transfer mode, data import, export and delete functionality, patient size functionality, RayStation launcher configuration and the settings screen. Let's move on to the next topic on our agenda, which is the open case dialog. So the open case dialog we had problems with huge databases. As this dialog always showed all patients from the database. What we have done is to optimize the result from the new index service. We send much less data, and we also compress the data. When you go into the open case dialog, we no longer show all the patients. It will now default to the 100 latest modified patients. The auto search will start after 3 or more letters are typed in. When you search, you will have a delay. This we also had in older versions of RayStation as well. If you type, we wait 250 milliseconds before we search. This can now be configured in RayStation config, but it defaults to 250 milliseconds. Bug fix included rewriting, so you have to use an index service to get this speed gain. If you don't, you will always go towards the database, and that will be slow. In older versions of RayStation, we do not cache the results. Thus, now, it is much more live and reflects the actual database. So always use index service for clinical environments. Let's move on. Our next topic is system upgrade. System upgrade. Reduced downtime. We have optimized based on making it much faster, up to 3 times faster than before. We do not use SQL Backup Restore for machine and clinic anymore, so it is more robust and we do not interfere with the backup schedule when doing this. The bug for not supporting multiple file stream containers in creating new primaries is fixed, so downtime is much reduced in this version, which is very nice. Now, we are ready for the last topic on our agenda. Small features and important bug fixes. Let's start with auto recovery. Auto recovery at last. It now also works for iron cases. Auto-recovery data is now stored as separate files to make it possible to exceed the limitation of 2 GB per row. Next, Active Directory, refactored. The environment variable rsuse local win nt search have been removed, so now it is the default. We have a new implementation for local groups, so mixing domain users and local groups is no longer supported. Clinic settings now allows SQL Server admins to log in if the configured admin group does not exist. There was a bug related to this, but now we use the same AD settings in Clinic settings when you start up and save. Lastly here, the login framework changed to Serilog, causing the log file names to change. Here you see a list of other bugs we have fixed for version 2025. We've worked on deadlock problems and patient size command. Scripting environments can now be larger than 2 GB. We had one issue with the memo query service at Research that is now configurable, so we don't have that timeout anymore. Connection strings in this confirm AD settings EC have been removed. Now you have to use system ID as a start parameter instead. This is in line with the other applications. I will leave you with the slide of known issues that are still present in version 2025 and good to be aware of. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention. We hope you will enjoy RayStation version 2025. Welcome to the RayStation version